Hello, OSD teachers. Welcome. Hope you're having a great week. This is Scott Carroll, Director of Certificated Human Resources. I'm sharing some information today about how to best fill out extra hours time cards. There have been some adjustments to the MOU between OEA and the districts. We want to make sure everyone is on the same page, and we want to make sure that you can fill out your time cards correctly so that you get compensated appropriately and in an expedient amount of time. So thank you for your time. This video will be quite short. All right, to start with, here's a copy of the new MOU. It's very similar to the one in the past, but the main difference is now that all student-based activities, so anytime that teachers are working directly with students, doing things like intervention clubs, anything like that, the hourly rate is $80 an hour between now and the end of this school year. That is, once again, only for this school year. Also, in addition to the $80 an hour, for every 4 hours worked, there is another 1 hour of compensation for planning time, which is also paid at the $80 rate. So you're going to see what that looks like. And hopefully we can go through some quick guidelines here to help you out with that process. All right, note that we do still have 3 different pay rates. Our $45 pay rate per hour is only when teachers are in meetings, or if they're given extra time to lesson plan, or they're providing support to a program. This is when they're not working directly with students. That pay rate is still $45 an hour. The $60 an hour is the PD rate, the professional development rate. So if teachers are working extra hours in a training outside the school day, they would receive the $60 rate. Now, as I mentioned a moment ago, the $80 rate is anytime teachers are working directly with students. This could be in clubs, this could be intervention, it could be Legos, it could be any activity that's directly impacting students and contacting students would be paid at the $80 rate. So those are our 3 rates for the balance of this school year. Please note these are all based on an MOU, and this does expire at the end of this school year. All right, so some time card basics. We want to make sure the time cards get filled out properly so that teachers can get paid the appropriate amount in a quick procedural time. So first of all, you want to make sure you include all these items. One is the date and the hours worked. By the way, I'm also going to have an exemplary time card to show an example at the end. You also want to include the location. This is the school name, so not your classroom number, but the school in which you're providing the activity at. So McKenna or Lopez or Fremont, whatever school you're working at, will go in the location. The description is going to be a short description of the activity that you're doing that's been approved by your principal. So whatever you share with your principal as your activity, you will include in there. Once again, you'll see this as an example in a couple moments. All right, some other time card basics. A class attendance spreadsheet for the month printed from Q. This is not something teachers need to create. So once you have your list of students attending, you're going to work with your after-school coordinator. They will actually create a class in Q for you. They'll do that work for you so that you can take attendance. This is required as part of the what you need to turn in with your time card. You must also have an admin signature and initials on the time card. And keep in mind the prep time. So every 4 hours that you work directly with students, you do receive 1 hour of prep time. Once again, that's part of our MOU for this year only. You'll see what that looks like in a second on our sample sheet. Please note that you are required to enter the prep time. Payroll will not fill that out for you. They'll not do the math on that. That is your responsibility to include that prep time when you turn in your timesheet. All right, a little additional information. All activities, hours worked, number of students served, etc., must be approved by the principal prior to starting to work with students. So make sure that before you do any work that you expect to get compensated for in extra hours that you do work with your principal so they can approve and work with you on all the guidelines. All right, so some other guidelines. Activities must be added to the school activities Google Sheet by the principal. So once you meet with your principal and let them know what activity you're doing, it must be provided as well for the principal to enter into the timesheet. Student rosters need to be entered into Q. We talked about that. That can be entered by your after-school coordinator. You just need to give them a list so they can create that class. And student activities should have at least 10 students. If you think there's an exception to this, you need to speak with your principal about that. But the general rule is at least 10 students in the intervention or club. All right, so finally we are at that exemplary time card. I want to show you some examples here. One is the time card should already have this feature into it. That's the ELOP hours. That's the budget code that the payroll needs to pay. But notice that on this timesheet, it has the date of service, the number of hours, the school site, in this case, Richon, instead of substituted for, this is where you're going to insert the name of the activity. So it's math intervention, Lego education, whatever it may be. And the reason is just enrichment after school, tutoring after school, whatever is the appropriate thing based upon your conversation with your principal. Notice the hours on top here are all hours that you've worked directly with students. At the bottom here is where you're going to record that prep time. So in this case, this teacher had 3 hours of direct student contact in the month of January. So they're going to go 3 hours. So 3 times 0.75, and they get an extra 0.75 divided in. So once again, you simply take the number of hours that you work and you divide it by 4, and you'll get the number of prep hours. So if you had 8 hours worked in a month direct contact, you divide that by 4, it would translate into 2 hours of prep time. So whatever your number of hours are, you're going to divide that by 4. The formula is right here. And at the bottom, you're going to add, and you're going to very clearly spell out prep time. We want to make sure that we pay you for that time per the MOU. The prep time should not be included up here in the top. The top is only the time you're directly working with students. At the very bottom is the summary of the prep time at the $80 an hour that we owe you. So this is why we have the exemplary here. Feel free to refer back to this for any help that you may need. Just some final notes. Extra time cards sometimes take multiple pay cycles, depending how quickly they get turned in. If they get turned in on time and everything is right on them, there's no adjustments that need to be made, we can generally pay those within the next time cycle or pay cycle, but sometimes it does get delayed based upon any additional information that we need. So the more accurate they are turned in, the more likely you are to get paid right away for them. If a time card is not filled out correctly, it will be returned to the school site and the teacher to fix, which may delay the payment. All time cards will eventually go to, for ELOP, will go to our Ed Services Department to ensure these requirements are met. They will be the ones that are sending them back to school sites if they're not filled out correctly. And last, I just want to thank you for the extra work you're doing with our students. I know it's a lot on top of your regular days, so thank you for that time investment. We really appreciate it on behalf of our students. Thank you, and we hope you have a great rest of the year.